Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the special session of the Military Literature Festival Lucknow, which we are conducting in collaboration with Strive. Today's topic is Armed Forces in Nation Building in the 75 years of independent India, and also the contribution of veterans. We have a very august panel with us who are an authority in their respective fields. More about them later. As you know that we promote our veteran talents. So today we have talented Lieutenant Colonel Ajay Mathur from Gurkha Rifles, who is a prolific artist. He has combined his profession along with his talent of art in a very interesting way, harnessing his experiences wherever he has gone. He was in Kazakhstan, and there he did some paintings on the nomadic life. And all his other experiences in the army or otherwise have been, distilled into his paintings. He is also a very sought after speaker. Uh, he discovered his talent a bit late in the sense that it was only in the final term in IMA that he made a portrait and which was recognized as the first best portrait, and he was given the award by the commandant. So we will have a look at 2 minutes 30-second video depicting some of his paintings. What a collage of wonderful paintings which have captured so many happenings and emotions. Getting back to today's, I would say, a very serious topic because contribution of the armed forces have been immense. Moderating the session today is Lieutenant General Dushyant. What a prolific career he has had. He is from Maratha Light Infantry. He was with the United Nations Peacekeeping Force as a military observer, also DIG and IG with the National Security Guard. He commanded the prestigious 11 Corps, Chief of Staff of Eastern Command, and finally he retired at the cradle of knowledge as Commandant of Army War College. He is a sportsman and a prolific cyclist who could cycle hundreds of kilometers in a week. And he has been contributing articles in various journals. He is a think tank on his own rights. So I'll now invite General Dushyant to kindly take forward today's proceedings. General Dushyant.
Thank you, General HK sir, for your kind words about me. A very good evening to all our viewers and the participants in this webinar. At the outset, on behalf of General Abhi Parmar, Chairman Strive India, and the entire Team Strive, a research group on geopolitical and strategic issues based in Lucknow, I wish to thank the Military Lit Festival organizers, especially General H.K. Singh, for having given us the opportunity to conduct a panel discussion on an issue that is very close to the heart of every soldier. That is the role of Indian Armed Forces and its veterans in nation building. There is a common belief in the minds of majority of the public that the role of defense forces is only to protect the country from external threat, which in simple words implies ensuring territorial integrity. In fact, very few are aware of the multifarious activities that the Indian Armed Forces undertake that either directly or indirectly contributes towards nation building, such as consolidation of the defense of the country, tackling insurgencies and aid to civil authorities, contribution to the UN, thus raising the image of the country, infrastructural development, disaster management, leading in maritime domains such as deep ocean missions, evacuation of Indian citizens from conflict zones across the world. The recent example of Ukraine is there for everybody to see. Even more interesting is the fact that over 50,000 trained armed forces personnel retire from active duty every year who are in the productive age bracket of 35 to 50 years, implying that a well-skilled, trustworthy, and disciplined manpower is also available year on year that can be utilized or harnessed by the government, non-government agencies, including the private sector, for constructive and productive purposes in nation building. Any step towards implementing this issue would contribute towards nation building positively. However, we need to ask ourselves, are we using the armed forces suitably in the country for nation building? Are we getting better bang for the buck? If yes, then is there a scope for further improvement? And if not, how best can we channelize this potential for national growth and nation building? Related to this issue is another question as to how can we gainfully use the veterans towards national growth and prosperity. Why do various governments and non-government agencies not give the veterans due consideration while hiring? Over a period of last few years, it has been seen that their dignity has also been deeply eroded. What are the reasons for it? To discuss all these issues, we have a very distinguished panel lined up with us, comprising General A.K. Chaturvedi, General L.K. Pandey, Air Marshal Amit Tiwari, and Commander Ghosh. To set the tone of today's discussion, we have with us a very distinguished military general from the sappers, who's I say always a soldier, sailor, scholar. Uh, as the keynote speaker of today's discussion, Major General Chaturvedi, AVSM, DSM retired, combines in him a personality that has excelled as a soldier, sportsman of national repute, and above all, a scholarly orientation of the highest order. We are indeed extremely fortunate to have you amongst us, sir. He would be speaking all the way from Gurgaon and has kindly agreed to give the keynote address. General is a veteran of Corps of Engineers of the Indian Army. He is a prolific author, quite active in the domain of writing and lecturing. His areas of interest are non-traditional threats to national security, disaster management, and leadership. He's authored many books on various subjects, but Water, a Source of Future Conflicts, is one of his best known works. Besides his military awards, he has been honored twice post retirement by Atal Samman in 2020 and Aaj Ka Karamveer in 2022 for his lifelong contribution to defense services. Presently, he is our vice chairman and he continues to guide us through thick and thin. Over to you, sir, for giving out the keynote address and setting the tone of this discussion.
Thank you, General Dushyant. It was very kind of you to have spoken so nice of me. You said very rightly that armed forces, it reminds me of that typical line of tagline of Life Insurance Corporation of India. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi. So they are the people who continue to contribute to society in more than one ways, through and thick and thin, during the service, as you said very rightly, maintaining the territorial integrity of the country, and all that task which is beyond the capability of any other agency. It comes to armed forces. But after retirement also, these veterans are of great assistance. In all, we need to optimize their resources. There are more than 20 lakhs veterans in this country, and every year about 60,000 retire. Out of these, about 3% are officers who are slightly in higher age bracket, that is 54 to 60 years, but balance are in the range of 35 to 40 years, and 20 to 30 years of useful service life is still left with them. Even the retiree officers are physically fit as compared to the civilian counterparts and mentally quite agile and alert. This panel is a true reflection of those veterans, and they can be of great help in strategic thinking as and when such tasks are assigned to them. They can always be useful for futuristic planning for the country. A question often comes whether they can be laterally absorbed in government sector. To answer this, there is a need to go over the policy of Government of India, which was stated in 1979. And this rules applies to all central services. I'm just underlining this, all central services, and posts are for Group C and D only. That means officers as such are excluded from these reservations. And in terms of, if we say equivalence, for paramilitary forces, the assistant commandant up to that position, or their equivalent in other departments. There's a 10% reservation which is given, but most of the time it is much less than that. And mind you, this reservation is within the 50%, which is the upper limit of the all reservations. So thus, there are about 54,000 ESMs every year. They get added to the number of veterans who are available for various tasks for nation building, and this can be taken up formally to augment the rank and file of various organizations. Although most of the states now have this Sainik Kalyan Nigams, but it is too late. I think much more needs to be done. Now, as far as officers are concerned, there's no such system whereby they can be employed in the government sector. Whereas if you compare it with all other central services, in my experience, I've never seen any IAS or IPS or railway officer just sitting at home and twiddling his thumbs. They all get absorbed within their own department in some capacity or the other. Armed forces have got only re-employment, and that is also quite limited. And it does not do the kind of justice which these armed forces officers can bring to the table. Many of them are trained at the highest level in NDC and other, higher command courses and all those things which are equivalent to highest in the civil, but they are not employed. So therefore, there is a need to look into it. In this context, we can take a cue from United States. In 1930, they created a department called Veteran Affairs Department. And over the period, it kept on getting improved. It was a congressional sanction. It's like kind of an act of parliament. In 1989, the then President, George Bush Jr., gave it a highest authority. And he says that veterans have a place only in the cabinet room, nowhere else. You can well imagine that the budget in 2021 of this department was, lo and behold, $234 billion, or about 3% of the federal spending. Can we think of some such things for the armed forces? And mind you, Americans don't call it spending as a welfare or something, they call it obligation. Please underline this word. It's an obligation of the nation to the armed forces and which can be utilized substantially. A question is asked as to why should they be knowing this? I mean, we need to know the strength of the veterans so that what makes their case more compelling to get, say, associated with the task of nation building. When we talk of the attributes, the first attribute which comes is this propensity of a veteran to work in a team. Right from day one, he is taught to be part of a team where his role clarity is quite clear within the goal clarity of the organization. Second is attribute of a service personnel is secular outlook. In armed forces, they are selected right men for the job. As such, nobody thinks of his caste, creed, religion, or any such thing, demography or linguistic skills or something. So this makes something what we always aspire to be, Indian nation, which is a secular discipline. In 1973, after the Yom Kippur War, Israel found to their peril that one of the reasons why they failed in that whatever form they failed in the Yom Kippur War, it was because of the lack of discipline. And that is why this is where Indian Armed Forces veterans score very high. He learned to follow the instructions. However, environment in the services, that the word of commander is full and final. And this is to avoid any kind of a confusion. But I must say here that it does not mean that he follows just like that. He can apply his mind, and juniors are also listening. There is in any op order, there is a sentence, last sentence, koi shak, shubha ya suggestion. So this is they are also listened to. Mutual trust. This is the, say, hallmark of defense services, where seniors trust juniors and peers trust their peers. And that is why one of the reasons is, which is the success. One of the greatest attribute of him is his sincerity and hard work. This helps in improving the organizational efficiency and by implication effectiveness. Related traits over a period of time which a veteran develops are determination and aptitude to learn. Why I say this? Resources will always be short, and so he will have to innovate. Anyone who innovates, because then he has got a positive mind that he has to complete the task, come what may. So that is where his determination, and he tries to learn new things always. Because besides other thing, one of the most important aspect is in his personality is izzat ka sawal. Unit ki izzat, uski izzat, family ki izzat. Respect for time. Everything, because we know that armed forces tasks are such, they are sequential in nature and related to time. And that is how in case if you miss the timeline, it may have a very catastrophic effect. And so that is why it is essential that you respect time, and veteran learns this quite substantially. And that is why tasks which are considered otherwise impossible, he'll take no time to complete. Now, while considering his attributes, there is also, for a veteran, there's another aspect which needs to be taken into account, his aspirations. After all, he had a very, very tough life, all his life, not getting time to stay with family and children, and where he has got certain obligations. So what should be what should organization do for this kind of a thing? They must try to employ him close to his home. He will prefer an environment which is structured, hierarchical, because he's quite familiar with this kind of organization. Having achieved certain domain expertise in certain areas, in case if his skills could be utilized, like someone is good driver, someone is good in, say, road construction, if that is how it can be employed, he'll be of great help. Now let's see what are the tasks he can take on. One of the important tasks is where he can be of great help is preservation of ecology and environment. I'll be giving an example also of this subsequently, because Indian society is an agrarian society where he loves trees, he loves his environment. So in case if he is given this kind of a task, he will be of great help. By nature of his job, he is suitable for security-related tasks, say tasks where he could be laterally employed by the defense of, say, paramilitary forces, state police departments, and things like this. Now, in recent times, because of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, this manufacturing and infrastructure development is assuming great importance. And the kind of task which entails these two tasks are these veterans are quite well prepared to take up this task. And mind you, also when a Jawan retires, in last 1.5 years, he is given an option.
May I request you, we are
okay.
Time by
Another 2 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Similar is task for the Navy and Air Force, aviation sector, as well as shipbuilding. They can be of great help. Excellence in sports is another area where they can be of great help, because having played all their games all through their life, coaches and organizers, India, the doctors, post-pandemic, in any case, it is assuming great importance. The AMC personnel can be, paramedics and doctors can be of great help. And officers, I have already said, some of the tasks, they had been in 80s, the entire Campbell Bay in Nicobar Island was inhabited by veterans from Punjab. And they were not only they added to the local development, they were a great security shield against any kind of a poaching activity in the 6-degree channel, separating it from Sumatra. Karnataka Land Army, which was of a great success, and it was headed by the chief, one of the chiefs, that is General Kumar Mangalam. And now it is over the entire Karnataka state, and it has become a corporation now. Madhya Pradesh also started from Rewa district, and they have about 24 districts there. Ecological TA battalions, this is what I was mentioning. There are 9 such, total TA battalions. And out of that, about, say, 6 of them are ecological TA battalion. And they have done a great job in restoring the ecology of Mussoorie, Kumaon Hills, etc. In conclusion, I would say that these services veterans had always been very useful. And they can contribute. Antiization is the way ahead. Railway TA, oil, pipeline, etc. Also, self-help groups in the villages formed of the defense services veterans could be of great help. But only the mindset needs to be changed of people about them, thinking that they're categorized people, they're rigid. That needs to be shed. It's not to be noted to be success of those who optimize their resources. And if India does not optimize their resources, it is our problem. Thank you for giving me time. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi. I think that characterizes the Indian Armed Forces role in the nation building. You brought to the table lack of reservation for officers, which is a very glaring issue, policy related. US example of US spending on veterans around $230 billion. I think our governments need to think about it and reminding us as to what the veterans bring to the table. If is an eye opener, and I'm sure people in the policy and in the corporate will take a look at it. Up next, we have General Lalit Kumar Pandey, AVSM, Bard, Sena Medal Gallantry, retired, ex-Strike Corps, a third generation soldier and die-hard infantarian. He will be speaking to us on the contribution of the armed forces from the Indian Army perspective. The general officer was commissioned in the 9th Grenadiers War and a third generation soldier from his family. He commanded some of the most challenging formations of the Indian Army, such as Punch Brigade, Kupwara Division in Kashmir, Strike Corps in the East, in the intense CIA operations. He also oversaw the Israel-Hezbollah war in Lebanon as a chief operations officer. He has a questioning mind and has a remarkably interesting take on all matters military or otherwise, and is the right person to throw some light on the role of Indian Armed Forces in nation building. Over to you, sir. And before you begin, may I request you to restrict your talk to about 7 minutes or thereabouts, as we are running short of time. Over to you, sir.
And General Dushyant, as you said, thereabouts means another 3-4 minutes. So thank you, General Dushyant, for this introduction. You made me feel big and good. And General Chaturvedi has already stolen the thunder about the ethos of the armed forces by telling what we veterans are all about in his introductory talk. So I would start by, telling all of us as to what is the relevance of this topic. The topic is relevant because there are many who question the budget that is given to the defense forces, whether it is worth this kind of expenditure, whether defense forces are worth this expenditure or not. Now, role of the Indian Army in nation building, I would like to say that the sum of the entire role of the Indian Army in nation building is its mandate, guarding or protecting the international borders, our frontiers, and ensuring internal security. There's nothing beyond it. Everything else that we do is a step in the direction to achieve this aim. Sadbhavana project is not meant so much for the civilian people there as it is to win their hearts and minds, bring them on our side, and facilitate our operations. Taking part in disaster management is because we are part of the nation and we must participate there. And so the role in nation building of the Indian Army, and I'm talking only about the Army, is to guard the frontiers and maintain internal security. So we have already spoken about humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. In fact, we are even, rescuing people from bore wells. Infrastructure development in remote areas, ecological sustenance through TA battalions, boosting defense manufacturing through demanding the manufactured goods made in India, military diplomacy, training of CRPF, police forces, and also the youth through NCC. We have spoken all about this. So I would like to impose a caution here. This is enough as far as nation building is concerned. And I'm convinced that any more will be at a tremendous cost to our ethos and our combat skills. And I define the combat skills, the skills of the army or the capability of the army in two parts: the hard power and the soft power. Soft power are ethos, our thinking, our training, and the way we can maneuver large forces. And more importantly, do we need to do any more? Will it contribute comprehensively to development of the nation? And will it there make a perceptible difference? We need to consider these things. A cost-benefit analysis will show that any further involvement will be at a tremendous cost to us. Now let me say how. Government of India has 2.15 crore, that is 215 lakh public servants, excluding the armed forces. I have excluded them from this figure because we are not public servants. We are soldiers whose job is to protect the nation, who have taken an oath on the constitution, which no other organization in the government of India has taken. And we cannot behave like government servants, because surely anybody who is listening to me at the moment would realize that if we behave like government servants, we can't go into battle, fight a successful battle and come back. And so therefore we are not government servants, therefore we are not public servants. So 2.15 crore people. Now these 2.5 crore people are distributed right up to the lowest level, which is the taluka level. And it is my understanding that the government of India's governance runs in the bloodstream of the nation. On the other hand, we are mandated for external and internal security, and aid to civil authorities were required, and for as long as required. To do so, now you must pay attention to this, to do so, we are to train ourselves for 2.5 front wars, which is no other nation probably prepares for this. We are to be ready to be launched in a cold start scenario at the shortest notice from our peace locations directly into the enemy territory with what we have, and in total synergy and coordination. So we need to be even better trained. We need to be focused even more on our role, and we need to remain even more ready. Also do note that the involvement in nation building, say through manufacturing, or participating in manufacturing, construction of roads, infrastructure development, river rejuvenation, also needs training. You can't go to the Ganges and say, I'm going to clean the river, fold up your trousers and enter inside and start cleaning the muck there. No, there's a certain method. There must be, after all, there is a proper department of the government of India to do that. So where do you get the time to train your man? And some of us may be thinking that how long does it take for a person to train to fire his weapon? Let me please put a few things across. A soldier, when he joins, must handle his weapon properly. Having learned to handle his weapon properly, he must integrate and the weapons of the rest of the subunit properly. He must integrate himself and that weapon in his subunit, which is his section, say for example in infantry. Thereafter, this is done through something called the integrated weapon training. Thereafter, this man should integrate himself with the higher subunit through something called a progressive weapon training. Simultaneously, that man should achieve a 5-centimeter grouping on the short range with his weapon to qualify to go to the classification range, where it takes 94 days for a company to complete its classification firing as per the army order that exists. Where is the time? Look at a general officer. I'm an officer from the infantry. I was a corps commander. What was different between me and a colonel commanding a battalion? The difference was that, see, it is something like this. For a second lieutenant and for the chief of the army staff, there's only one pamphlet for defense. He reads the lines, the general reads between the lines. They say a good author says things, a better author whispers. So what is it that this general needs? I, as a corps commander, needed to know generalship, in which I was expected to know the art of moving, managing, maneuvering, launching, sustaining large forces. For that, I need time. So where is the time for anything other than our primary role of nation building? Why the topic then? It is because some of us sitting Veda need to talk of things. This is a dangerous thing to do as veterans. This is a dangerous thing to do. We are probably giving ideas which should not be talked of also. This is what is my feeling. Now, you also must remember that involvement in any further nation building will bring in a lot of financial problems in the army, will also affect our ethos, will cause a rift between the senior officers in the rank and file. And I would like to quote an example. We have the example of Op Amar, construction of cantonment in Ambala before the 1962 war. And you know how politics resulted in what it did in 1962 war. But I'll quote a recent example. And let me be very frank about it. I do it with conviction. In 2018, some people died on a footbridge in Mumbai railway station. They died not because of the footbridge. They died because of mismanagement of the flow of people on that bridge. And lo and behold, what did we do? We were nobodies, but we said we'll construct the bridges. And we not only constructed one bridge, we constructed 3 bridges. And who constructed these bridges? The combat engineers who are supposed to construct temporary crossings in own and enemy areas to ensure mobility of our forces. And we employed them for constructing permanent footbridges. Is that our role? Why was it done? Was it done because we wanted to please some masters? Did it result in a feeling going to our rank and file that we generals want to now draw favors? There's a word called Faustian bargain. Was it that Faustian bargain is to try and achieve your aim, giving up your ethos and the good things that you have learned? Was it that? Did it pay the person who tasked this army to do this work in uniform? Gentlemen, we need to understand that if any department of the government fails, nation will still recover. Nation will recover after a tsunami, will recover after earthquake, after a nuclear strike, after anything. But if we fail, there isn't a department that will ever be able to compensate for our failure. We are simply indispensable. And we will fail only when our soft skills come down. Remember, we are the national insurance policy for our country. We cannot fool around with ideas of going in for nation building. We are doing nation building by maintaining peace and tranquility in the country wherever it is required. Gentlemen, Dushyant, during his introductory talk said that there are, and I'll finish in the next 2-3 minutes, said that, they are losing respect and we should see as to why they are losing respect. Well, it just comes to my mind that you would agree that our speech and our actions are observed by the civilians and by the rank and file. Social media is all pervasive. And so the man who's serving on the ground today is also seeing what is appearing in social media and various groups. So I was at this fact that look at the behavior of our so-called defense experts. I don't know who makes them defense experts, putting on a cap, putting on their ribbons, coming on the TV, fighting with each other, making funny remarks about various sections of our society, arguing amongst each other, shouting at some other panelists, behaving in a manner most unbecoming of the officer. This is what is my feeling. Whereas good soldiers are supposed to just fade away. We are not supposed to be in the bloodstream of the bloody nation after retirement. So you tell me, and they're criticizing government policy. Who's giving them, anyway, whatever. So all these affect the rank and file, cause a dent in the respect that we get from the civilians. Gentlemen, just a small little incident that I would like to tell you. It seems, I say it's on the WhatsApp group, it seems that there was a soldier traveling in a bus, a retired soldier veteran traveling in a bus. He gave some money to the conductor to buy a ticket. The conductor returned the money to him and returned maybe slightly more than what was supposed to be returned to him. And the conductor walked away. When his stop came, the man got up and he says, "Conductor sahab, idhar aaiye, aapne mujhko ye extra paisa diya." The conductor tells him, "Ye extra diya dekhne ke liye ki aapke andar ek sipahi ke andar kitni imandari bachi hai. Mujhe bahut fakr hai ki aapke andar imandari hai, hum aapko salute karte hain." Gentlemen, the entire ethos with which we have lived or we should live is summed up in this small little 5-6 line poetry by Gopal Das Neeraj, which I would like to read before I end. Yahan jhagda, and this veterans must remember, we must remember, anybody who donned the uniform must remember, anybody who takes pride in putting on his ribbons must remember. Yahan jhagda jaat paat ka, aur na jhanjhat madhab ka, ek sabhi ki pyas yahan par, ek hi hai pyala sabka. चार धाम का पुण्य मिले इस दर पर शीश झुकाने में, मजा कहां वो जीने में जो मजा यहां मर जाने में। हाथ जोड़कर मौत यहां पर चाहे खुद मर जाना जी, हाथ जोड़कर मौत यहां पर चाहे खुद मर जाना जी। ये अमरों की प्रेम सभा है, यहाँ समझ कर जाना जी. Somebody said, the men learn in 3 ways. The first man learns by reading, the second learns by observation, and the third learns by piddling on an electric fence. We should not be learning by piddling on an electric fence. I think, gentlemen, we need to learn our lessons. We need to understand that our combat skills must be maintained. And lastly, one Rahim's couplet, which should be the watchword for all soldiers. He says, in chess, Rahiman सीधी चाल थे, प्यादा होत वजीर. In chess, by moving straight, the pawn, the pyada, becomes the wazir. Rahiman सीधी चाल थे, प्यादा होत वजीर. Sirsi, that is a knight, घोड़ा. Sirsi साग न बन सके, कभी राजा नहीं बन सकता. Sirsi साग न बन सके, जिन टेढ़ी तासीर, क्योंकि टेढ़ा चलता है हमेशा. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Pardon my, oration at a louder voice. Thank you very much, and I'm honored to be a part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, General Pandey. In fact, tagline, if we fail, nation may not be able to recover. I think that was the crux of his talk. General Pandey, as usual, in his characteristic style, has raised certain issues which are contrary to the common prevailing views about the armed forces' role in nation building. His statement that we are already doing enough, do we need to do anything more than this? I am reminded of the last chief's statement, General Manoj Naravane, who had said that defense spending should not be seen as an expenditure or an unproductive work. I think he said rightly so, because he was looking at the op preparedness of the country, and for op preparedness of the country, we don't have to question budgets. So with that brief little review of his talk, I would also like to add that these are perceptions of a number of people in our community. And I think we need to take consideration of what all he has said, and then evolve a policy which is a midway policy, in the sense that the nation building will come by focusing on primary role as an indirect method and mechanism. So there would be an indirect benefit to the nation building if we focus rightly on the primary role, which is the defense of the country. We now move over to Air Marshal Amit Tiwari, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vayu Sena Medal, Vayu Seva Medal, retired ex-CNC Central and Southern Air Command, and alumnus of the NDA, DSSC, CDM, NDC. Air Marshal Tiwari is highly experienced fighter pilot with over 3,500 hours behind him, and he's also a qualified flying instructor. He has had many command and staff appointments, which include team leader of the prestigious Surya Kiran Squadron, station commander of a frontline Indian Air Force base, first India air attaché to Afghanistan post-Taliban era, air defense commander, and a number of prestigious staff appointments in the air headquarters and the air command headquarters. He was also the air officer in charge personnel. He has the distinction of commanding 2 air commands, firstly the Southern Air and the secondly the Central Air Command. For his distinguished service and professionalism, he was awarded during his service at various stages, PVSM, AVSM, and VM. With such an experience of a service in the blue, I think we couldn't have asked for a better person to speak to us on the role of armed forces from an Air Force perspective. And I would also like to add that he is also a Strivian. And over to you, Air Marshal Tiwari. The floor is all yours. Once again, we are actually going beyond time. So we are shooting over time. So I would request you to restrict your talk to about 7 to 8 minutes. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, General. Thank you for your kind words. And thank you, Strive, to give me this opportunity to tell about the role of Indian Air Force. I'll restrict myself to Indian Air Force, but more or less the same thing is applicable to the other forces also. So when I don't mention Indian Air Force, that means this is all 3 services which are involved. And like I'm from the Air Force, so I like to make things very clear. When this topic was told to me by General Chaturvedi, the first thing which struck me, and in Air Force we are encouraged to ask questions, nation building. So what is nation? Or what is nation building? So if you go to Encyclopedia Britannica, the nation is a group of people with common language, history, culture, and usually geographic territory. This is a definition of nation. The people can come together voluntarily or non-voluntarily. Now, remember, when we got the independence in 1947, we didn't meet any of this criteria as far as the nation was concerned. India was different under Maurya Empire, it was different under Gupta Empire, it was different under Mughals, it was different under British, it was different under Sikh, it was different under Maratha, different under Chola, different under Rashtrakuta. We had a lot of different cultures, 22 scheduled languages, 200 dialects, a dozen ethnic groups, 7 religious communities, several sects, subsects, 68 socio-cultural subregions. And not everyone joined voluntarily. There were states like Junagadh, Hyderabad, Kashmir, which had to be coaxed to join Indian nation. So our nation came up in a very complex manner. It was not a true definition. Now, having understood what is the nation, now what is the nation building? Here I take help of our constitution. The preamble says, and I quote, "We, the people of India, have solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic." Unquote. We in the armed forces are people of India. So we need to take part in nation building. We cannot say that it is not our job. And what all constitute nation building? In specific term, it can be assurance of security, help in governance, humanitarian and infrastructure in assistance. These may be required during peacetime, during crisis, during emergency, during war, or during post-conflict reconstruction. Now, having understood what is nation building, I'll quote another line, and which is very familiar to my friends from the army and to all of us who are NDA, ex-NDA, or armed forces. I quote, "The safety, honor, and welfare of your country comes first, always and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of your men you command comes next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety comes last, always and every time." These are the ethos with which we work, and these are the ethos with which we should continue working as far as the nation building is concerned. As I brought out earlier, ours was the newly born nation. And the task of the nation building, since the independence, had become very strong. The first thing was to maintain the territorial integrity. The strong and well-trained armed forces are not only a deterrent to adversary, they are also only means to protect their sovereignty. IAF proves its mettle in all the operations that it took part since independence. And it started right after the independence. By 20th October, Pakistan had started moving in with the Pathan tribals and Pakistan army into Kashmir. Till then, the Peter of Kashmir, Maharaja Kashmir had not decided to join India or not. On 26th October 47, he signed the instrument of accession. At that time, the tribals were knocking on the door of Srinagar. There were no Indian troops in the region. On 27th October, the only Dakota squadron of Indian Air Force made sure that the 1 Sikh regiment lands by 9:30 in the morning at Srinagar airport. Rest all is history. But it was the effort put in by this single Dakota squadron which ensured the history that we are seeing today. Otherwise, the thing could have been different. IAF is the offensive, air power is offensive by nature, and it is very suitable for the kinetic operation. This IAF has proved in many of the wars subsequently, be it 1965, 1971, or in Kargil conflict. 2019 Balakot strike sent a clear message to adversaries of India regarding their vulnerability anywhere in the world. They really cannot go and hide. However, it is not only during war or contingency that Air Force plays a role in nation building, but in peacetime also it maintains forceful offensive posture by constant training and honing their skill, which deters the adversaries from mischief. It creates a peaceful environment for the nation to continue with the development activities. The Indian Air Force, due to its basic nature, has got two unique qualities: the reach and the instant response. These are the qualities which have ensured that in some or the other form, Air Force elements are always involved in nation building. It could be a sudden requirement to airlift paramilitary forces to Kashmir, Chhattisgarh, or Northeast to calm down a situation. or just to help out democratic process by moving polling parties or paramilitary to ensure free or fair elections. As the time is less, I will not repeat the help provided by IAF during natural disasters like floods, earthquakes. It could be Uttarakhand flood, or it could be Nepal flood, or it could be Kashmir flood, or it could be Cyclone Oki or Indian Ocean tsunami. Irrespective which reason it was, irrespective which country it involved, we also sent help in this Hurricane Katrina to US, and we also sent help to China at one time. Indian Air Force was always ready. Due to the immediate response of IAF, Indians anywhere in the world have confidence that if there is a problem, IAF will come for rescue. It could be security situation in Yemen, Iraq, Ukraine, or COVID in China. It was Indian Air Force which not only rescued the Indians, but also the citizens of neighboring countries to the maximum extent possible. Ours is a young nation where caste, religion, language, and a host of other identities are deeply entrenched in our psyche. These are often exploited for narrow gains by inciting sectarian loyalties at the expense of national identity. In such an environment, the armed forces provide a live and professionally functional model where narrow sectarian, regional, religious, or any other conflicting ideology or identity is subsumed in a larger national identity. To help the nation building, the armed forces are example of the ideal that our constitution wants our citizens to be. I can add few more examples to highlight the Air Force IAF nation building. I hope everyone remembers the 2016 demonetization. The government had to position the new currency to different part of the country for economy to survive, for the people to survive. IAF with its fleets of C-17 and C-130 transported 625 tons of currency, most of it in 500 rupees or 2000 rupees denomination. Recently, during COVID, in an effort to help civil administration in fight against global pandemic, the Indian Air Force, IAF, has been flying overseas as well as domestically, airlifting empty oxygen tankers, full oxygen tankers, cylinders, and delivering the medical supplies. These empty cylinders were coming from Asian member countries to Gulf countries to European Union. At times, the aircraft flew non-stop 12 hours to 10 hours to get these items in time. Indian Air Force internationally picked up 793 metric ton of container and 204 metric ton of equipment. Domestically, we distributed 6,856 metric ton of container and 163 metric ton of equipment, and all within given time frame. The time is less. In the end, I will just quote what Chanakya said. And the entire phrase is in small phrases. I'll quote: the Mauryan soldier does not himself fill the royal treasury, nor does he get the royal granaries filled. The soldier only and merely ensures that he is very basis, silent, barely visible cornerstone of our fame, culture, physical well-being, and prosperity. In short, responsible for nation building. We are soldiers and we will always be soldiers, and we are involved in nation building to the extent possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Air Marshal Tiwari. I think you kind of balanced out what General Pandey was saying and what the armed forces can do. And that's what exactly I had said, that while performing our primary role and the secondary role, because that's mandated by the Constitution, we can indirectly contribute towards nation building. As far as veterans are concerned, I think the world is out there. They can be easily exploited to contribute towards productive growth, as General Chaturvedi had also highlighted. I kind of liked the idea you said that the soldier only builds on fame, culture, and well-being of a nation. With that, we'll move on because the time is short to Commander Sumit Ghosh, who will be our third and the last speaker. He's a former Indian Navy submarine officer, a qualified deep sea diver, missile and underwater weapons specialist. Commander Ghosh is an alumnus of the DSSC, Staff College, Mirpur, Dhaka, Bangladesh. And he's also been the directing staff at the prestigious DSSC Wellington and an instructor at the Submarine Training Center, IN Tadvahana, Visakhapatnam. He underwent specialist cruise missile training in 1999-2000 at the Naval Training Center, St. Petersburg, Russia. Thereafter, he also was part of the INS Sindhuratna medium refit come modernization at Severodvinsk in 2001-2002 in northern Russia. He has served in many submarines before commanding INS Sindhudarshak, which sailed our famous late President Dr. Abdul Kalam. After leaving the Navy in 2013, he's been a consultant in education, healthcare, and skill development sectors, a motivational speaker, a keen writer on varied topics, including those concerning national security, tactics, and on issues. Commander Ghosh is advisor to the Logistics Sector Skill Council on Education Initiatives in India. He's also a member of the 3 different NGOs working on health and other social issues. Commander Sumit is Vice President of the UP Rowing Association. He shares a similar interest with our Vice Chairman, General Chaturvedi, as far as rowing is concerned. He's also a member of the UP Tennis Association, Lucknow. He's an active member of the strategic think tank Strive. I dare say he's an officer with a crossover experience of military and the civil, and I think he can best throw light on this subject today. Over to you, Sumit, and kindly restrict your talk to, although I'm not stopping, but do try and attempt to restrict your talk to about 7 to 8 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very good evening to all the organizers and the participants and the illustrious speakers before me. Thank you very much. I feel proud and honored to speak on the topic of role of Indian Navy in nation building. Actually, if you see the ocean, the peace and the blue horizon beyond that is the place where the Navy works. The men who are professional, the assets which are working in air, underneath the sea, or on top of the sea is the thing which is keeping the ocean peaceful. And that is what is required for keeping the territorial integrity of India intact from the maritime borders. We have a large maritime border of 7,516 kilometers. So we need a robust Navy which can take versatile roles to ensure that everything is peaceful in the region. Actually, if you see, every unit or ship of the Indian Navy is a slice of India. There are people from various backgrounds, various languages, various cultures, caste, creed, or religion. But they all work as men in uniform, men from the Navy, working for the nation. The Navy has got 4 major roles to play. The military role, of course, is the main, which is actually the war fighting, the use of power, the use of resources and assets to ensure that there is peace and good order at sea. It is important for the Navy to keep deterrence factor over there, influence affairs on land, and also to ensure the safety and security of our maritime assets and maritime resources and mercantile trade in the region. So the military role is the most important. The next comes the diplomatic role. It is to shape the maritime environment to our advantage in support of our foreign policy and in support of our national security objectives. And that's why you have the Navy engaging with various countries in the region, the RIM countries or the IOR, ARC region countries. And that is to shape the diplomatic relations and build political consensus on various issues. It is also used to show some kind of a political stance or some kind of give a message in times of requirement. The third main role of the Navy is constabulary. We know that the crimes in the oceans are increasing. There is a requirement of carrying out anti-smuggling drive, anti-poaching, anti-human trafficking, drug trafficking, and also carrying out patrolling. So this is an exercise which requires the operations ranging from the low intensity maritime operations to the benign operations. The last role, of course, translates to the benign operations, where you have the humanitarian assistance, the search and rescue missions, ordnance disposals, or even humanitarian aid, medical supplies, etc. So while giving out these roles, it is very important for us to know now, while since 1947, Navy has continuously done and ensured peace and stability in the region and grown in strength and strength. And now it is known as one of the biggest Navy and the most powerful Navy in the region. How has this happened? It would not have happened without support for the nation building. What is important is to know what is happening right now and what has happened recently. Operation Sagar. Sagar stands for search and security and growth for all in the region. Under Operation Sagar, the Navy is supporting all the countries in the region for patrolling, for carrying out checks in the region and ensuring that no inimical actions happen in our region. Another operation is Operation Sankalp. Under this operation, the Navy is carrying out anti-piracy patrols in the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Northern Arabian Sea region, because that is infested with piracy, and safety of our merchant shipping flag moving around in the region is paramount. So Navy is continuing that. During COVID recently, the Navy undertook Samudra Setu Operation 1 and 2. In the Operation 1, Samudra Setu, it brought back home 4,000 people from various countries across the oceans. It took 55 days during lockdown when the naval ships were deployed. This was to bring back our own people from various locations. And under Samudra Setu 2, it transported over 6,000 oxygen cylinders. It brought back the oxygen containers, liquid oxygen tanks from various parts of the country, from various parts of the Indian Ocean region to our country, to various places. Altogether, 11 to 12 ships were deployed. It is a huge task, and it was a task in support of nation building. The Navy has carried out patrolling in the region. It carries out surveillance of the exclusive economic zone in support of small or big maritime naval operations. It has carried out food and medical aid supplies in the events of distress or certain mishaps in the region. The medical evacuation also was done in 2021. It has provided survey assistance to 4 countries of the region for making nautical charts, which is an important thing for the naval collaboration point of view. The Navy conducts 35 maritime exercises with 27 countries of the region. And these exercises are very important for joint interoperability issues, to sort out procedures, to communications and weapon exercises, etc., which enhances understanding of between the navies, between the countries, from their political relation point of view to the military relations point of view. The Navy has been involved in gifting assets or devices or equipments to various countries of the region, like small radars or guns or certain other crafts to smaller countries in the region. Now, it has also set up coastal radar chains, because MDA is an issue. The maritime domain awareness is a key issue of knowing what is happening in the oceans, and ocean area is too large. So it has set up coastal radar stations in the region. The MDA has been enhanced by the Information Fusion Center, which is in the IOR and is set up in Gurugram, and has been set up in 2015 and has got foreign officers and sailors also working in it. The Navy since 1970 has trained over 15,000 officers and sailors of 46 countries. That shows how much of naval cooperation we are doing towards nation building. Now, coming to how does the Navy promote self-reliance? What has the Navy done to build up India? Because from the buyer's Navy, we are going towards the transition of the builder's Navy, which we have become from 1947. Now, Navy actually is reinvesting 88% of its fiscal budget for capital expenses, which is amounting to 2 lakh crore rupees. and into our own shipyards to boost up our own shipbuilding industry. As of now, 41 out of 43 ships and submarines are on order in the Indian shipyards. This is a great boost to our own people getting employed, to our technology, to our industry, which is getting a huge boost. And now we are slowly constructing and giving expertise of this kind to various countries in the region also. There are various countries which are sending their ships and crafts to us in our dockyards for their refit and support. In fact, the recently commissioned INS Vikrant, the indigenous aircraft carrier, has 76% indigenous content. It provided an employment to 15,000 people. And the amount of steel which is available is about you can build 3 Eiffel Towers in it. So it's a huge project, and it has given employability and revenue to the government, and also build confidence in our shipbuilding industry. Navy has engaged about 35 MSMEs in the recent times. MSMEs have been engaged, they have been supported, they have been funded, and they have been handholded by the Indian Navy for innovation in new things for defense applications. Navy is also participating in the Defense Industrial Scientific Center and for innovation and technological applications.
Requested to wind up.
And Navy is also promoting the digital India by digitizing its infrastructure and digital and increasing digital services. Now, let me give an example of use of GEM. For example, the government e-marketplace for various vendor activities, the Navy has increased its target from 532 crores to 930 crores. This gives an opportunity to the young, low investor group of entrepreneurs from India itself to bid for the naval products, and the requirement gives requirement to the Navy and actually get supported. And they do not lose out on the big firms. Of course, in terms of women empowerment, the Navy has taken women sailors, women officers from NDA, and also now Agniveer scheme, and it has already put women in the combat roles in aircraft, helicopters, and it's a great boost. India is now, the Navy is also opening the IT field for the Navy women, specifically recently. The Navy has also contributed effectively to the Skill India mission by signing MOUs with various MNCs, and it is upgrading its own training institutes to a higher level. In fact, INS Shivaji, the School of Marine Engineering, you would be glad to know, is the first center of excellence amongst the defense institutes to be promulgated by the government and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. In the conclusion, let me say that the nation actually is an expression of its values, its people, its culture, and Navy is enmeshed in it. And Navy provides a great service to the nation by all its roles and steps into the shoes as required. But the primary role, as Sir also said, and the speakers before me also highlighted, that the primary role remains warfighting and safety and security of the EEZ and our shores to be kept within our control and for favorable maritime advantage. In the end, I will quote Honorable President Ramnath Kovind while giving the President's Colors to the submarine arm recently in 2017. He said, and I quote, "Today, our maritime interests are directly linked to India's economy and security and to the well-being of our people. Over 90% of our trade by volume uses the sea route. All this enhances the role of the Indian Navy, not just in national security, but in the wider process of nation building." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumit. I think we all are aware that the Navy traditionally has been deeply involved with economic activities, which are directly contributing towards nation building, in the sense that maritime domain has been heavily used by economic trade across the globe, and therefore your primary job itself in some form or the other contributes to nation building. And also we have found that the Navy was the first of the block to get and integrate the indigenous defense industry into defense production, and therefore you guys are well ahead as far as the other two services are concerned. The other two services are trying to catch up with you. So in some form or the other, I would put the Navy without compromising its primary role, contributing towards the nation building. With that, we come to the end. We have got a few questions. I will take first one is a comment, and I will ask for counter comments from our panel. It is from Colonel R.K. Verma. If he's there, absolutely right, sir. Why only army feels it is its responsibility for nation building? Do nations or government have ever tasked Indian Army for nation building? Whatever has been done by the army for nation building has ever been recognized. Forget about appreciation. Hence, I agree that we should focus on our main role and task. We offer and do more than what is required at the cost of Indian Army's need. While we have the views of General Pandey, let me ask Air Marshal Tiwari as to what he has to say on this particular comment, and then I'll quickly ask for a very short one-liner comment from Sumit. Air Marshal Tiwari.
Your question is correct to some extent, but what I feel as a member of Indian Armed Forces, who are we? We are national asset. Who has created us? The nation has created us. What does our constitution say? That we need to make India a socialist democratic republic. So if we are doing something, what is wrong in it? I'm very clear in my mind that whatever we do, we cannot overlook our primary responsibility, that is war fighting. All of us know there are no marks for coming second in any war. So we need to come first every time. But over and above, just because we have this organic capability in us, just by being armed forces, we are disciplined, we have got certain assets. And if this can be used in nation building, we really don't have to ask anyone. It is our responsibility. The quote which I quoted right in the beginning, the nation comes first every time. All of us follow that. And we've been following it at least 39 years plus 4 years of NDA and other training. We really can't change suddenly and say that, no, this is not my responsibility. And why do we consider that unless we are employed by Government of India, only then we can help in nation building? I'm not looking for employment. That is looking for employment. That unless Government of India employs me, I cannot do the nation building. I can do nation building on my own. Out here, Sumit is sitting here. He is looking after 3 NGOs. I'm not sure that he is doing it for payment. It is the ethos. It is like all our life we have been told to work, work, work. We can't suddenly change and say, no, nation building is not my responsibility. Thank you.
Yeah, Sumit, if you want to say anything very short, then I'll come back to General Pandey because it was essentially linked to his talk. Yeah.
So thank you very much. I think I quite agree with the Air Force side views of the Marshal sir. I think there is a need to be very clear that while we are in the forces, we wear uniform and we are responsible for the war fighting primarily. But then if the nation needs you, you better come. But then the question is that, can the nation call you straight away if there is a disaster or something? They do call because we are the most organized, we are the most, we are the system having command and control, and we are more responsive, and we will do the job diligently. That's why they call us. But there are other agencies also. I think that the forces should be the last man standing. We are the first and the last in the line to provide our assistance. We are first to go in also, but we are the last in line also. I think there is a to just shun away the responsibility or to say that we should not be employed, I think would be wrong and would not be contributing towards the nation building process as a whole. I know that there are different views here, but I feel that the Navy, particularly because of its large area, 2.3 million square kilometers of EEZ and 70% landmass equal to the EEZ, I think there is a great social outlook and the political and the regional scenario coming into it, and then wider exposure and wider interaction with various outside bodies and outside agencies, it is really taken up this as a very in earnest exercise.
Okay, thank you. I think you're also kind of echoing the Air Marshal Tiwari's views. I would like now give the last word to General Pandey as to what he has to say on the views of our two panelists.
General Air Marshal Amit said that we are an asset, but who's not an asset? Public Works Department, Irrigation Department, the man who's working in factories, the doctor, the lawyer, everybody's an asset. So we are also an asset, nothing big about it. See, if you send a ship to evacuate people, you are on the job training. You send an aircraft to pick up some loads, you are on the job training. But if you start cleaning the rivers as an infantryman, it's not on the job training. The question itself presupposes that a department of government of India is not capable of doing its job, or it is not adequate to do its job. Who told us that? We are all, running to do things which we are not required to do. In the case of the foot overbridge construction in Mumbai, the retired zonal manager of the railways made a statement which appeared in Times of India that the railway workshops are more suitable for this kind of a work. He said that very, very clearly. And then tomorrow, there can be a zone made. Okay, Central Command, so-and-so Minister of Parliament will be responsible for employing the manpower of the army for so-and-so work. The generals will, probably, try to outdo the other men. Financial things will start occurring. Let's restrict ourselves to what we do best for the nation. Let's remain responsible for the task we've been mandated for, jiski kasam khai. And let's not get involved into things that will affect our efficiency.
Thank you, General thank you, General Pandey. I think more or less everybody is talking the same thing. The only difference is that what I can make out from General Pandey is that he doesn't want us to go out into areas.
Overreach should not be there.
Into areas which are kind of an overreach. We have General Chaturvedi also wanted to speak on this issue, sir. Quickly, if you can say, because we are already over time. If somebody can unmute him, so he'll be able to give his comments.
I think I am unmuted already. Kennedy said long back, ask not what your country can do for you, say what you can do for your country. What General Pandey has said and what other two speakers have said, there's hardly any contradiction. There is no question of, say, compromising the role which we are mandated for. That is first, foremost, and that is inviolable. A nation cannot forget that. So that is one part of it. But we also need to remember that we are the last instrument of exercising the will of this nation. In CWG, a bridge was being made by PWD or CPWD, someone, and it collapsed. The Corps of Engineers of Indian Army was asked to produce that bridge, or this railway bridge, foot-over bridge in Mumbai. The time is not that railway cannot do it, but the time frame in which it was required. There are some tasks we will have to undertake, and we should be prepared for that kind of a thing. But more important is that the values which bring, so secularism, which is there in the unit, that itself is a nation building. Single language, that itself is a nation building. Sincerity, hard work, all these things which we learn in armed forces, and even if it rubs over 1% on the people who are around you, I think we are adding to the nation. And as Amit had very correctly mentioned, that nation is more than just a geographical boundary. So these values, if you can just kind of spread, that itself is a nation building.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll close this question at this stage. We are already overshooting our time. One last question we will take at the cost of HK getting a little worried as far as the time is concerned.
Also, please continue. This is an important topic we are discussing.
Yeah, so we have Brigadier Amitabh who has asked series of questions. What about making big statements about areas where we have no expertise that forces can do it? Shouldn't the political statements be avoided by forces leaders? What stops us bringing peer pressure on so-called defense experts? What is the percentage of veterans employed by three services for the nation building? Any figures available? We will take each question one by one because they are not really related. First one is about the serving officers, if I'm not wrong, making statements which are beyond their capabilities or which are not feasible in realistic terms. If you want to further clarify on this issue, Brigadier Amitabh, microphone can be unmuted and he can further clarify about it. Can you unmute Brigadier Amitabh's microphone? Pankaj?
I think he is unmuted.
Brigadier Amitabh. Okay. Okay. Let me have the views of General Pandey on this issue.
So first of all, putting pressure on the veteran community. You put pressure on we are not a collective lot who can go and protest or do anything about it. So probably that is good, but may not be really possible. That's desirable, but may not be practical. Here's a WhatsApp post doing the round by one of the officers, Colonel. He says that in the recent incident of the TT throwing out the soldier in Bareilly from the train and who died recently, had it been a police chap, the TT would have been through in an encounter by now. And the general should have protested. Now, he expects the army to go and do what you call encounter of the TT. Or he expects the generals to go and sit down in Jantar Mantar and start doing protests. I mean, what can you do about such people? It is very sad.
TT has already been arrested. The issue is closed. TT has been arrested.
I'm just saying that this is the kind of things that come from veterans. So to curb all this, maybe this pressure thing may not work. What we need is probably some rules through ADGPI, who can speak on TV, who cannot. Certain guidelines for veterans for which so much of criticism came from the previous AG. We need something like that which will help.
I think I'll clarify here. There are rules. In fact, there is a government order which has been passed, which says that people cannot come on television and talk about defense and military matters and security issues. But somehow nobody follows it, and people are called over, and people keep talking about it. So unfortunately, that is a trend which has to be inborn. We say that we are disciplined, but I don't think we are disciplined enough to conduct ourselves in a manner in which a military person should conduct. The pressure can only be put on them through such webinars and such seminars where we actually highlight these issues and some sense prevails over them. The video is going to be on the YouTube. I'm sure people will listen to it, and probably some people will get converted towards a good military behavior. As far as the figures of ex-servicemen being employed by the defense is concerned, I think we don't have the figures, but suffice it to say that at least in the officers rank, we have re-employment which is going on, and everybody has been brought up to the age of 58 years. That I'm talking of the officers. As far as men are concerned, they are being facilitated through DGR for various positions whenever they come out, and also through resettlement courses. Other than that, the governments of the states have, as per my knowledge, because I am associated with an organization, they are actually not filling up even the reserve vacancies. Also, the reservations for ex-servicemen have been now shared by the paramilitary forces as well. So
Can I just one small one?
And Divyang,
I would like to add,
Divyang.
I would like to add.
Ex-servicemen and
Brigadier
Divyang.
one at a time.
Brigadier Amitabh, I would only say that there people who die at 60 like me, they have to have a cooling off period. They should not be permitted. Getting so much of pension, you are getting money. You have to be having a cooling off period, and you should not be participating in any of these things. It's good to fade away. It's good to be quiet. Be by yourself. Don't bring a bad name to the armed forces.
Okay, cooling off period is already there. Nobody follows it. That's the bigger question. There is a policy on cooling off. Although it's not 2 years, it's about 1 year, but people try to get a waiver on that issue through the MS branch. Chaturvedi sir, you wanted to say something on it.
What I am saying that for reservation, the armed forces reservation is linked with also in the same reservation bracket is Divyangs. So therefore, the number comes down quite substantially. But there are certain skilled people, like in MES, they can join as junior engineers. So that is one option which is available. Similar thing is through DGR and this Sainik Kalyan Nigam. They provide certain jobs which is security related and also skill related, but not enough. I suppose that this option of getting trained in last 1.5 years will help a lot of these ex-servicemen because this manufacturing sector is opening up, the medical sector is opening up. In these two sectors, definitely a lot of ex-servicemen can be employed. And that is what my suggestion would be.
Thank you, sir. I think we are awfully short of time now. We are overshooting by about half an hour. In the end, it just leaves me to say that the discussion today was quite productive and will help those in the policy formulation to harness the potential of the armed forces in a constructive manner. And in doing so, the powers that be will take care of the interests of the armed forces personnel, both in service and life, as highlighted by our speakers today, especially their dignity and justified needs. The armed forces' primary role should never be compromised. I think that's on that issue, nobody has any dispute. However, indirectly, if we can contribute towards nation building without this primary role being compromised, the nation should go ahead with, the armed forces should go ahead with it. And in the need, we must realize that armed forces are the instrument of last resort. And therefore, even if there is a need, aid to civil authorities is part of the constitutional bidding as far as the Indian armed forces are concerned. So in a place where it is the last resort, the armed forces may be called upon to do so, and they have been called upon. I don't think there will be any politician who would be unduly trying to take control of the armed forces. If people are doing it, I think that will be the saddest day as far as the Indian democracy is concerned. Contrary views expressed are also a food for thought for us to think whether we are doing things correctly or not. As far as our contribution goes, all the four speakers have highlighted today the yeoman service which the Indian Armed Forces are doing. So therefore, I will not repeat those. This leaves me to thank panelists for sparing their time as part of Literature Festival Lucknow will achieve further glories and feathers in its caps in years to come by. Thank you very much to every one of you. Jai Hind. Over to General HK sir for you.
Thank you very much, Strive, for bringing in this very balanced perspective about this intriguing subject called armed forces and nation building. First of all, what is Strive? We must tell our audience. Strive is an initiative of veterans from Lucknow, a society for transformation, research, integration, and veteran empowerment. The crux is the culture, character, value, professionalism to do the task efficiently, primarily the defense and deterrence, which has been done by our three services admirably over last 75 years against many odds and challenges. 26,000 sacrifices, countless wounded, and many other difficulties. We have rubbed our values onto the nation. The very fact that our nation and our people have super confidence in us and have a super trust in us, that I think is also an added part of the nation building. India is rising. We feel good in the armed forces to be part of that rising, having done our job and having done our job plus with efficiency and elan. And we enjoy that our civilians have trust and confidence in us. With that, we will close. Thank you very much, our audiences, and Strive.